Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. This is BRN AM for Friday, June 7th, 2024. And our top story today, achieving an exit velocity for aging. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Bryan Johnson is the CEO and founder of Blueprint. Bryan, so great to meet you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Yeah, glad to be here.
And I know aging and longevity is a real passion of yours. Can you talk a little bit about where that came from? Why the drive to work on longevity? Why the drive to improve aging?
I think it's an interesting question that when you look throughout history and you look at time and place, you can identify what humans thought the greatest ambition was. I mean, for example, for Magellan, it was circumnavigating the globe. In the 60s, it was imagining going to the moon. And in the early 2020s, what are the greatest aspirations that humanity can express? And I think it's to dramatically extend our health spans and lifespans into a frontier where we just can't see the end.
And I wonder, as a follow-up to that, I wonder, experts often talk about the fear of missing out. If I didn't make it to the 2000s, there's a lot of things that I would have missed out on. Thinking about the development of human history, if you're not there, there are lots of technological advancements and discoveries that our grandparents and their parents are missing out on.
Yeah, we are at the most exciting moment. We've been on this earth this earth has been around for 4.5 billion years. We find ourselves at the most exciting moment in its history. We're giving birth to superintelligence, and it's going to enable things, that exceed our imagination. And so for me, it really is, we are evolving into something else, and it's wise for us to contemplate how do we increase our probability of surviving and thriving. So that's why I think my endeavor causes so much controversy, is that I'm calling into question everything we understand about life and our goals and our desires. And I'm saying that it is a new time, a new era for new things to be expressed.
And we've come so far in terms of technology, but also medicine. I mean, the longevity here in the United States, at least, and probably in developed nations, has grown significantly. But a lot of that is based on all the technology that we've accumulated, and especially, Bryan, in the last 2 decades, there have been so many discoveries when it comes to some of these chronic diseases, cancer, diabetes, heart attacks. We have learned so much. And to your point, it gives you and others like you the opportunity to figure out, okay, well, how do we extend life? How do we make it to triple digits? How do we make it to beyond?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in my estimation, we don't need to see how we're going to solve aging to make it a priority. I personally am convinced that the speed at which artificial intelligence is progressing, that it will introduce possibilities that we currently cannot see. And so for me, it's really locking in on the belief and the hope, and then building systems towards that objective. But we don't need to see the answer in order to go after the objective.
Yeah. And Bryan, last question before we go to a commercial break, because we have to pay the bills here, unfortunately or fortunately. How much does diet, and we'll carry this over into the next segment, but how much does diet, in terms of what you're discovering, what you're figuring out, is it based on diet and exercise, or is it at the cellular level?
The majority of my benefits can be achieved with diet, sleep, and exercise. They are the power laws, and they're the hardest things one can do, but if you get them right, they have the biggest yield.
Well, Bryan, as I said, I need to take a very quick break, but hey, look, it was a perfect segue. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of those tips that Bryan and others have come up with to help build greater longevity, you're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Bryan, thanks so much for staying with us. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2 this morning.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, and this is, look, I think this is absolutely fascinating. You and others like you are on the cutting edge when it comes to just, I think, a better life and a better lifestyle. Bryan, let's start off with sleep and the power of sleep. You mentioned that is one of the, almost like one of the trifecta of things that we can control. How important is sleep to extending life, to greater longevity?
Yeah, I prioritize my entire life around sleep. And so maybe to back up a little bit in terms of like, who am I and why am I credible to speak on this topic? I have arguably the best biomarkers of anyone in the world. I currently am unaware of anybody in the world who has better biomarkers. Now, probably there's people who have better biomarkers than me, they're just not measured. But of all those who are measuring, I have the best biomarkers in the world. And I achieved this with a team of 30 medical professionals in over 3 years, going through all the scientific literature. And so we've tried to take advantage of all the scientific evidence that is present to apply the best practices. And so knowing that, yes, sleep is my number one life priority. I consider myself to be a professional sleeper. And so it's not something that I do when I have time. It's not when I do something I do when I finish my movie. It's not something I do when I just feel like it. It is my most important appointment of the day. And so, for example, just like if you and I show up to an appointment and we're 5 minutes late, we apologize to our coworkers for being late. If we're 5 minutes late to our bedtime, we should apologize to ourselves. We don't want to disrespect ourselves.
And it's that sleep. I mean, it's the repairing at the cellular level. It leads to better mental health. It just better overall health can come from sleep.
Sleep is probably the most powerful drug anyone can take. It helps on almost every single biomarker.
Bryan, when it comes to food, let's talk a little about nutrition, because you referenced your biomarkers. Look, there's chronic obesity, cholesterol. I mean, you name it. Americans are inflicted with it, unfortunately. What do we need to do from a food perspective, the types of food to consume to hit greater longevity and better aging?
Yeah, I put together a blueprint diet. So I've made my entire protocol free for everybody. You can go to my website, protocol.bryanjohnson.com. Everything I've done is shared for free with everyone. And so there I have my recipes and what I eat on a daily basis, but it's very similar to a Mediterranean-like diet. Every calorie has had to fight for its life. For example, my breakfast every day is broccoli, cauliflower, black lentils, hemp seed, ginger, garlic. My next meal of the day is a nutty pudding, which is macadamia nuts, walnuts, flaxseed, sunflower lecithin, 3 cherries, pomegranate juice, and some berries. And then I have a third meal of the day, which is berries, nuts, and seeds. But yeah, every single calorie has had to fight for its life. It's based upon evidence. And if it doesn't do a job in my body, it's out.
And does it have to be organic? Because a lot of people make a big deal out of whether it's organic or just the traditional greens. Yeah. Do you have to go and spend tens of hundreds of or thousands of dollars over the course of a year to get the best produce?
Yeah, I learned this because we launched the Blueprint product. We were doing this and people said, I want to do it. It's just way too complicated. Make it easy. So we responded and we made it into a low cost, easy to consume product. And I've become aware through my own firsthand experience, our food supply is dirty. It's so dirty. I am surprised at how dirty it is. It's actually alarming. And so I hesitate to eat anything that we don't source ourselves and manufacture. It's that dirty. So yes. So if If you can't consume Blueprint, then yes, buying organic is a nice proxy. But even in organic products, I mean, I've tested many of these, you're still getting a lot of contaminants. It's just the case in the world that as hard as we try, even with Blueprint, we can only deal with the global food supply chain. And so we're all kind of in a bind of it's all very dirty, but you can do some things to minimize. Organic is one thing, you know, companies like Blueprint is another, but definitely be aware that the food supply system is dirty. So then if you go to something like a restaurant and you're eating their food, it's you know, fries and pizza or whatever, you add all those things together, it's just catastrophic for health.
Bryan, let's talk a little bit about exercise. Do I need to be a bodybuilder or run a marathon every week in order to be? I'm making it about me, but in all seriousness, do you need to be a an exerciser that does everything to the extreme, an extreme exerciser, an extreme athlete in order to live life to its fullest?
Yeah, there's 7 tips that if you follow, you can achieve a life expectancy of 92. So number 1 is don't smoke. 2 is 6 hours a week of exercise. It doesn't really matter what you do, just be active for 6 hours. And if you want to get into the details, you know, it's like you want to be in zone 2 through zone 4 for a certain amount of time, in zone 5, but like, don't worry about that. It's just too complicated. Just be active for 6 hours a week. Eat a Blueprint and or Mediterranean-like diet. 4 is maintain a BMI between 18.5 and 22.5. 5 is little to no alcohol. 6 is friends. And 7, sleep. If you get the basics right, now these are things we all know to be good for us. If you can get those basics done, then again, you can achieve a life expectancy of 92.
So really, Bryan, it's in our hands as individuals. No one can control this but us. It's what we consume. It's what we do. It's our thinking. It's our mental health. It's our sleep. We control all that.
Yes, exactly. And so the headline is I spend, $2 million a year. Now I have spent a lot of money on this project, but it's not on the routine. It's on the research and the measurement. I've become the most measured person in human history, and the measurement is very expensive. And it's very hard because we're doing things no one's ever done before, but the actual implementation is low cost. Sleep is doable by others, choosing your bedtime. Now, sometimes people who have a night shift are challenged in certain ways, or newborns. Like there's definitely clear life impediments to sleep. However, some of these things really are within our direct control.
Bryan, you mentioned some of the testing or all the testing you're doing. If you could leave us with what are you working on next? So we've come up with this, or you've come up with, not with me, a protocol based on all these tests and this experience you've had. What do you work on next? Is it solving some of these chronic diseases, cancer, heart, diabetes? What are you working on next, if you can share?
Yeah, I'm trying to achieve age escape velocity, which means that for every year that passes, I stay the same age biologically. And so we're never going to stop aging as a process, but we can lower it. So right now, my speed of aging is 0.64. So that means I celebrate my birthday every 19 months because I'm aging much slower than average. So we're trying to get that number very much lower. And then of the aging damage that does happen, we try to reverse it. And so I'm trying to hit the age escape velocity because if I do, it's going to be like a moment where the human race says, this is the moment where we turn from death being inevitable to this new horizon of we don't know what's possible. So I'm really trying to turn the entire human race towards this new possibility of we just don't know how long and how well we can live.
Well, Bryan, I really appreciate you coming on the program. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, then visit our website. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN Weekly. Jane King will be here from the NASDAQ to help break down markets and the economy, and then we'll take a look back at some of our best segments for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, Roll with the changes.